I write in the same place, same time, 6 days a week, and have been doing so for 25 years. Yet here's a little secret. Every time I sit down to write, I'm never in the mood to write. Not at that moment. It's true. I am not in the mood to write when it's time to sit down to write. I am stone cold. It's true. And if I have to write an essay, that is, I write 2 to 3 essays a week. If I sit down to one and I don't have an idea, my first thought is usually, I got nothing. That's true. And in fact, I think it's true for almost every writer, but there's a good reason for that. And it's because in addition to being writers, we are 5-sensory, 3-dimensional beings who go about in the world, interacting with the world, seeing things, hearing things, smelling things, talking to people, listening to people, interacting with the world, reacting to the world. It's a part of being human, and it's a nice part. I like it. I like all the play of life. But then we sit down to write. There we are at the desk, in front of a blank page, and there is nothing to interact with, nothing to react to. And before we can begin to write, we have to go inside and allow our attention to descend to the level where our desire to write exists. We can't write till we're in the mood. We can't write until we're in the mood to do so, which creates quite a problem for a lot of people. And it used to for me as well, because whether you acknowledge it or not, you know, at some level, you can't actually do this writing thing until you're in the mood. You may have tried, and God knows I have, and it just doesn't work. The ideas don't come. When I'm trying to write when I'm not in the mood to do so, I feel like I have forgotten how to write. So this is important to remember because a lot of writers procrastinate, as I talked about in my last episode. And one of the reasons they procrastinate is this very thing. The idea that they're going to show up at the desk and they're not going to be in the mood and they're going to say, well, it's time to write, and they won't be able to do it. And that feeling of being there at the desk saying it's time to write and I've got the story to tell, but not feeling that connection, not being in the mood, not being in the flow, feels like instant failure. It feels like you got nothing. As I said, I start off with a thought, I got nothing, but I know it's not true. I know I've got something, but my attention just isn't where the stories are. So I don't really mean it. Not anymore. But if you don't understand what's happening, if you don't understand the natural transition necessary going from your domestic frame of mind where you interact and react to the writing frame of mind where all inspiration comes from inside, the only thing to react to is what comes to you inside. If you don't understand that there is a difference, you might mistake the experience of sitting down and being cold, as we all are, as somehow significant and meaning that there's something wrong with you, or you don't have what it takes, or it makes writing just seem like a random kind of experience where I don't know from one day to the next if I'm going to feel like a success or failure. I became a professional writer when I learned to take this transition from domestic to writing, from one frame of mind to the other, seriously. And I stopped beating myself up for not being in the mood at that moment, and instead got interested in how to get into the mood. And I think this has to be all our job. How do you get into the mood? How do you let go of the world? This is our job. You sit down to write, and you've got a story to tell. The story doesn't exist out there. Doesn't exist out there. Maybe a portion of it exists on a page on your notepad or on your computer, but it doesn't exist in the world. It exists in your imagination, and you're sitting down to summon it. And so give yourself time. Give yourself time to forget about your job, forget about your relationships, forget about your chores, forget about even the things you enjoy, the foods you like to eat, the people you like to hang around with. And instead, allow yourself to reconnect to the story, whether you reread what you wrote the day before or just enjoy writing one little sentence, however you do it, you will gradually begin to forget about that external world that you inhabit and interact with, and begin to remember the pleasure of the story. Begin to remember it. And as you do, and as you descend into it, and as you get into the mood, that story that exists only in your imagination will become as real as the chair you're sitting in. Realer still. You will be more aware of the story you're telling than the chair you're sitting in, than what's going on in the outside the world, past the window, past the door. Remember the story, remember your connection to it, and it will become real, and you'll be in the mood, and you'll be writing. It's how it works. Thanks again for watching. Remember, if you don't want to miss a dose of fearless writing, hit subscribe. And if you liked it, say so. Share your point of view. It's how people like you who don't know about it can learn about it. And isn't that good? Yes, it is. So until next week, this is Bill Kenower. Stay fearless.